Hello, everyone. Well, as all things in life go, there's always going to be a mix of good and bad when it comes to certain things. And while Muffin is definitely 99% good, there is something that has happened recently that has left a bit of a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. So, let's take a look at what's going on and try to understand what that is. For those of you who don't know, there is a bit of a dilemma that people are facing with regards to Paper Plane Week 5 and the MELMON Wishlist event. Essentially, what we had understood, based on timing that had existed in other versions of the game, is that the MELMON Wishlist event, which is a recurring event every, approximately from when people say every 5 to 6 weeks on average, from the other versions of the game, we had expected this wishlist event to line up with Paper Plane Week 5, which would be very, very good for people who have been saving their Melomon resources for the next wishlist event. Primarily, this is free-to-play players because the advice that they've all received is, hey, don't spend your summoning strings, save them all for the next wishlist event. So, here we are, we're in Paper Plane Week 5, and there's no wishlist event. So what exactly is going on? Now, this has definitely caused a lot of confusion and definitely frustration. I mean, if you go look around the community, it seems to be the #1 most discussed thing out there. But what could have happened? Is this simply an oversight by the developers? Is this something intentional that they've done? And of course, when situations like this do come up, there's always the inevitability of people starting cynical commentary and potentially spreading even conspiracy theories, saying things like, oh, is this in fact a deliberate strategy by the developers because they want to encourage people to spend their resources and spend their money across separate events, and they felt it was too beneficial to the player base to have both of these events line up. Now, that does seem like a little bit of a stretch in my opinion. However, I'm not going to completely throw away the possibility that that could very well be an option. But from my personal perspective with the developers and how they approach the game so far, they don't really seem the type to look at things in that way and push that type of agenda. So with that said, I would say more likely it could simply be the simplest answer is always the correct one, which is that every single version of a game is going to have slightly different scheduling. We're going on the assumption that our game is following the Chinese or the Taiwanese version like a book. And while most of the time, it does seem to be relatively accurate in how it follows those versions, we can't view it as 100%. And there are going to be the inevitable regional differences that end up in these misunderstandings. Now, obviously, this does all sort of hover around one key important topic, which is communication from the developers to the players. All of this confusion would have been avoided had we just known what we could expect, as opposed to going on fumes and assuming that things will follow the Chinese or Taiwanese version. Now, before I continue on, there has been some stuff said by one of the official community helpers on the official Discord, so I want to pull that up on screen and just read what they said to understand and maybe get a bit more insight as to what's going on here. So I'll pull up the two comments that they made and we'll read them together and try to understand exactly what their perspective on what's going on here is. So the first comment on the 7th of January, which is yesterday, is regarding the wishlist. Taiwan originally had a wishlist set up for Paper Plane Event Week 5. Last night, it came to my attention that Taiwan switched their wishlist for new servers to Week 6 in order to match up with the Pet Week. Note, if it comes out at the start of Paper Plane 6, there will be an hour difference between the start of Paper Plane 6 and the wishlist start. There is also a possibility that the wishlist may open prior to Paper Plane 6, so please be on the lookout. I'm sorry for any inconvenience. I'm trying to keep up with stuff as much as possible. Last minute switches aren't always easiest to figure out. So I think that there's a very important point being made there, which is quite simply, if you are aware of the upcoming Paper Plane reward schedule, Week 5 is, of course, a very important week because it has the artifacts, but Week 6 is actually a full MELMON week. It's going to be MELMON Move XP, MELMON Shard Selection Box, the pink move material to use to upgrade legendary moves once they reach level 40. So probably someone sitting there in the developers team said, well, wait, why don't we delay the MELMON wishlist until the paper plane week that's actually centered around MELMONs? So that could it simply be as simple as that? Yeah, it could very well be that from a OCD and aesthetic perspective, and keeping the MELMON wishlist along with the MELMON paper plane event, that could be a theory as to why it ended up being delayed. Now that doesn't necessarily work the best for us the players when we have the best and most important rewards which free-to-play players have been saving up for, which is this week 5 paper plane artifacts, the a chance to receive double runes from the daily bubbles. That's extremely important, far more important to free-to-play players than a pet shard selection box, which is the key reward from week 6. So if in fact the developers have decided to push this off to week 6, great, I understand why, but at the same time, it doesn't necessarily translate to a better experience for the players. Now let's go to the next comment here written on the 8th of January, which is today, and let's see what this one says. So, update on wishlist, further information I've gathered. We are currently following the Chinese servers and not the Taiwanese. Interesting, that's already very good information to know. The pet wishlist is not a scheduled event. They tend to give an update a couple days prior on the Chinese servers, but no clue if they will do that for us here. It is a cross-server event, meaning it is based on the game's age and not the individual server age. Usually they make the wishlist event every 5 to 6 weeks, leading to believe it will pop up in paper plane week 6 or week 7. There is a stipulation as sometimes this is delayed. For example, if a new generation comes out, it is a separate wishlist event. There is a new summon item for new generations, just like the class change skill upgrades. The new generation wishlist will push off the original wishlist time. Devs for the wishlist in China seem to base the wishlist times off of the server 1, if I'm understanding correctly. And then saying, I'm just passing along info I've gathered. Nothing is set in stone. I just want to try to help make things a little clearer. I hope we can announce ahead of time to be better prepared, but who knows. Yeah, we appreciate, just want to shout out Mummy Soul. That's one of the community helpers in the Discord, for putting this information together, since of course people have been quite confused and concerned and really unsure what to do from here. So some key information here, again, a lot of this is just based off this post and things that are generally understood, not anything necessarily directly official, directly from the developers. But it's good to know, for number one, we are following more closely the Chinese service and not the Taiwanese service, and as well that the pet wishlist event, or the MELMON wishlist event, is in fact on a server-wide schedule and not per server, which is definitely interesting to know. Now, if it is every 5 to 6 weeks, it'll pop up in paper plane week 6 or 7. Now, I think it is likely, if you ask my prediction what I think will happen, I think it's quite likely that we're going to see the wishlist event line up with the MELMON themed paper plane week 6, which is a shame. And ultimately, I think, like I said, this all boils down to this here. Where's the key message in here? I've saw it here just a second. The most important thing here is that the developers tend to give an update a couple days prior on China, the Chinese service, so no clue they'll differ here. This is the key message here. And the key takeaway here is nothing is set in stone. We don't understand anything. But that in itself is the problem. The problem at its heart is not necessarily that we didn't get the wish list with the paper plane week 5. The issue is that the devs didn't communicate any change to us, any understanding of what the scheduling should be. So here's a few key takeaways here. Number one, and this is important, as a player, adaptability is key. So things like this will happen. Sometimes there's going to be changes from region to region. There's going to be, maybe developers going to change their approach. They felt things weren't as smooth in the Chinese or Taiwanese version, and they view the global as their, third region, the one that they want everything to run as smoothly as possible. So they might make some changes to how things work. So at the end of the day, as a player, we just have to remain flexible and adaptable and cater our strategies to the unpredictability of event schedules. And still, at the end of the day, the the correct thing to do is to save your summoning strings for the pet wishlist event, the MELMON wishlist event. Yes, it's not here now. Yes, it's paper plane week 5. And yes, the temptation must be strong to blow all your MELMON summoning materials to get the paper plane week 5 rewards. Now, it's a shame that it hasn't lined up. Maybe we're going to be lucky, and in the last few days of the paper plane week 5, the wishlist event will show up. But personally, I don't think that will happen, and my guess is it's somehow going to line up with the MELMON themed paper plane week 6. But again, beyond all of this, the most important thing that, and this is what we should emphasize to the developers, and if you can get one message across to the developers right now, we, as the players, would like better communication from the developers. We want to have clear information about event schedules. In fact, let's go a step further. Instead of us guessing at what content is coming to us and what we should be prepared for based on the previous versions, why don't we get a roadmap from the developers? Why don't they give us, they don't have to give us exact dates. If they can just give us an idea, something to understand, something to base our assumptions off, something just to guide our resources, how to save our resources and prepare for upcoming events, because this is the name of the game. Not everyone is a giga whale who's able to spam infinite money and get anything they need anytime. If you're a free-to-play player or a light spender, you're going to have to pool your resources. And the developers are aware of this. And so all we as the players are really asking for here is, hey, can't you just give us a little more information so we can properly plan and save our resources and not be blindsided by these miscommunications and misunderstandings based on how things have gone in other versions of the game? I don't think it's a particularly complicated request. So if there's anything that you as the players can do, is voice your concerns to the developers. Don't go on a rampage, because that's not anything that's beneficial, but just say, hey, we the players would like better communication from you, the developers. That's all we're asking for. Because if we had known that there would be this disparity, this lack of syncing with the wishlist event with week 5 paper plane, then we could have prepared for that. People would have known, people would have saved and pooled resources accordingly in a way to offset the lack of that alignment. So there it is at the end of the day. Better communication, problem solved. So let's hope for the best. I mean, hopefully we will see the wishlist event before the end of paper plane 5, but personally I think it's more likely that we'll see it next week's paper plane 6, and unfortunately paper plane 6 and paper plane 7 are not the most attractive weeks when it comes to free-to-play players, as you would most likely just want to get the artifact from paper plane week 5 and then save your resources again for paper plane week 9. So there you have it. Let's hope the developers will step things up in terms of communication and prevent miscommunications and misunderstandings like this from happening in the future. So thanks for watching. Hopefully we'll see, like I said, some improved communication from the developers, and yeah, fingers crossed that we'll see this this wishlist event sooner than later, and that it lines up with something useful with the paper planes. So thanks for watching, everyone. Hit that like button if you liked the video, subscribe to the channel if you have not already, and as well join the Discord. Plenty of fun stuff happening on there. Look forward to seeing you there. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one. Bye, everyone.